Everyone, my name is Shayona, and I'm here to welcome you all from the team Starbucks for our final presentation. Starbucks, it's not just coffee, it's Starbucks. Moving forward with the overview of the company, Starbucks is a multinational chain of coffee houses. The company was established in Seattle in 1971, and in today's, it's having 32,000 brand locations worldwide in 80 countries. Starbucks offer premium quality coffee, tea, and other beverages. It also includes sandwiches and pastries. Starbucks also have an inclusive range of seasonal and limited time options. Other than their physical stores, Starbucks have the mobile application for ordering and payment apps. Starbucks, other than their coffee and other stuff, beverages, they're also famous for their environment-friendly approaches like reducing carbon footprints and other things. Moving forward with the language analysis. So in our case study, initially, like when we discussed about 2008, Starbucks used a feedback language approach for their practices. Whereas with time, we saw in 2008, when the CEO came back, we saw they started using the generative language, and soon later, they moved to feed-forward language style. Also, there are some examples which we quoted from the presentation, from our case study in this presentation, which is the evidence for these type of language analysis. Positioning of S-curve. From 2005 to 2008, we kind of saw that Starbucks was in a situation where they were kind of optimizing the things. Whereas when the sales and everything started going down, the CEO realized that they have to come back and start improving the initial stage. That is, they started hiring the MBAs from the established companies and restructured their groundwork. Like they did a brand new groundwork, and then they move forward with that. So we can see in 2009 to 2014, they again came back down, and then they did the groundwork with the new CEOs and all the other people, all the new collaboration. And then from there, they moved forward. Strategy drivers. So in our case study, we have seen that most of the time, the problems were given more importance than the opportunities. And here are some evidences which we can see how the language used in the case study was more of a problem driven than the opportunity driven. We all know that whenever we focus on problems, we try to understand the problem and then we move forward. Whereas when it's opportunity driven, it's always about how we see what we see in future and which energy, which provide more enthusiasm in people, individual, and make the progress better. So here we have taken some problem statement which were quoted in our case study, and we have tried to convert it into some opportunity statements. For example, instead of saying Starbucks need to rediscover why it was in business apart from a basic imperative towards growth, imagine a Starbucks where growth is its mission and its value rather than imperative towards growth. What does it look like? How does it look like? These opportunity statements always encourage people to think for what exactly we are doing and motivates people to move forward. Now I would like to hand it over to Steve for asset management.
Thanks, Shayona, for getting us started so well. When moving into asset management, one of the biggest assets that Starbucks had was their 2,000 automatic espresso makers. Unfortunately, the espresso makers that were in play at the beginning of the case study got in the way between the connection between the barista and the customer. They lost eye contact. They lost the ability to make the connection between the barista and the customer. It also took away the customer's ability to see how the drink was being made. As the case put it, it took away some of the romance in theater. So one of the things that they did during this case was they made a big financial investment to replace those large espresso makers with smaller, compact ones to make the connection between the barista and the customer again. Starbucks also had great gross margins, which allowed them to be able to invest in equipment like that. But they had seen an average growth of over 5% year over year in gross margin shrink down to 1%, which caused the board some concern and make a recommendation to replace some of the leaders to be able to build on the rich brand that they had and improve operations. So some of the assets that we looked at were the knowledge and skill they had. In the baristas had a wonderful skill at making the drinks, making them beautiful, connecting with the customers, making it seem like it was a personal experience, almost like that corner coffee store. Starbucks also did a great job with market branding, all the way to the point you hear people say, hey, we're going for a Starbucks, when they just mean I'm going for a coffee. It doesn't necessarily mean Starbucks, but it became so ubiquitous with coffee that it showed the strong power of the brand. They also did a great job with product launches and product development. They also had great espresso makers and coffee makers that allowed the drinks to be made efficiently and more custom to the customers. They also had a very high store count, which meant it was easy to find a Starbucks. You didn't have to go searching. You didn't have to go for a long drive. In many areas, it was on, it seems like almost every corner. They also had great manufacturing facilities and products. Starbucks also has a great social media presence, very strong and very well used. So they're able to take advantage of that. They also partnered with complementary brands, and they also got involved in community with things like Hurricane Katrina or Product Red. One of the other largest assets that Starbucks has is a lot of cash. So they were able to replace and invest in those new espresso makers because they had a high profit. Other assets we saw were some of the great joint ventures they had, the fact they're able to support the coffee farmers, the coffee farms, and over 300,000 global partners. Some of the assets that we assumed are present because knowing the business, but not necessarily mentioned as assets, were the employees. Again, with the baristas, that's how they're making the connection with the customers. That's why a lot of people come back. Real estate. They were in some of the most key locations to make it easy for customers to get to. And in order to be able to service that many stores, you have to have a strong logistics program in place. So how did they link and leverage these assets? Well, one of the things they did was coming up with the My Starbucks idea. This allowed more people to be able to speak into the process and provide ideas on how to improve the Starbucks brand, the customer experience, or the products. Starbucks also did a great job of connecting with the customers with their rewards and mobile app. They gave the customers a reason to continue to come back and buy product with them, but they also met them where things were headed as people were using more and more of their mobile devices. They met their customers where they were at. Starbucks also did a great job of providing free Wi-Fi within the store, which not only met a customer need because people like to have somewhere to work or to surf the internet or just get away and have some place to be social, but it also allowed them to potentially get additional revenue because people are there longer. So instead of maybe just a coffee, they may have a second coffee, or they may have a pastry or something. So they're increasing their ticket with the customer getting more money. And as we mentioned before, they highly leverage their social media platforms and were able to connect with a lot of people. In fact, becoming the first company to reach 1 million Facebook fans. And with that, we'll turn it over to James and talk about strategic decisions.
Thank you, Steve, for the introduction. So this part of the presentation, I'm going to be covering how Starbucks converted strategic opportunities to outcomes. So in this slide, strategic decisions, Starbucks ruled in a number of initiatives: a new product line with a wide range of product choices, special product promotion, also venturing into music, Pike Place in Seattle's Best, which is one of the founding places, so they leveraged the coffee, and ready-to-drink products. And also new retail channels. They ventured into real estate, storage, design, planning, and construction. Joint ventures with one of the recognized coffees that I like the most, Green Mountain, and acquisitions that they also used to leverage for coffee equipment company, Evolution Fresh. And also they provided appreciation for employees by introducing an employee training and recognition program. Starbucks has always been known for having a card, but they have a rewards card for loyal customers. And this is how they root in a lot of initiatives. So they root out certain things to help out with the company, which was cutting back on healthcare benefits. But they could not hold off on delaying employees to make sure they advanced in their business ventures. And they also ruled out maintaining store count because of the employee layoffs. And the first phase of JAWS was ruled out, but it was leveraged later as I would say, a ingredient to one of the key drinks that they leverage to this day. Okay, so they had a strategic decision-making criteria, root in coffee purchasing strategy. They was building relationships with growers and exporters, checking on agriculture conditions and crop yields, and searching out source meets Starbucks standards. Use fixed prices for purchasing. Also ethical sourcing and environmental impact, which Shiona mentioned in the introduction. Staffing, they also showed lots of appreciation for staffing through employee benefits, systems to recruit, hire, train baristas, store managers, screening, training programs, award for partners, health insurance, stock and shares, monthly allowances, but they ruled out partners lacking business skills and experience. Okay, so we have 7 bullet points here that define the destination of Starbucks at this point. To be the undisputed coffee authority, engage and inspire partners, ignite the emotional attachment with customers, which stands to this day, expand global presence while making each store the heart of a local neighborhood, be a leader in ethical sourcing and environmental impact, as I already mentioned, but production practices preserve biodiversity, maintain healthy ecosystems, creative innovation growth platforms, and deliver a sustainable economic model, reorganize ops, support quality, speed, and cost management. The side graphic shows a lot of the strengths, outcomes, support, and risk that went into this. Okay, so what does that look like? Those same 7 bullet points is what we'll see. But what we're going to focus on is what we feel. Professionalism realized and felt. The magic is restored. The ambiance, attraction. KPIs turned around. Hordes of happy, hyper-caffeinated sapiens having a ho-ho and hiring around. Okay, so here's another point that we see to this day. There's always a trend. I like their food, even if the coffee is not that great. But Starbucks is the trend for everybody to consume. I even like Starbucks. So I'm gonna go ahead and hand it off to Greg for creating strategic pathways.
To further expand on the strategic decisions, Starbucks had multiple sub-strategies and actions. Sub-strategy 1, Starbucks needed to secure the position of undisputed coffee authority. Starbucks needed its partners to share their passion, pride, and knowledge of Starbucks offerings, and to share their mission with customers. Sub-strategy 2, Starbucks sought to engage and inspire partners. Starbucks committed to deepening its training and career development opportunities and remained dedicated to the progressive benefits and incentive packages. Sub-strategy 3, Starbucks sought to reignite the emotional attachment with customers by addressing their needs, providing value congruent to the brand, and rewarding loyalty while delivering operational excellence. Sub-strategy 4, Starbucks sought to expand its global presence while connecting individual stores to the communities and cultures they served through art, music, and decor. Sub-strategy 5, Starbucks sought to be an ethical sourcing leader to help preserve biodiversity, maintain a healthy ecosystem, and support economic and social development in coffee production. Sub-strategy 6, Starbucks sought to create innovative growth platforms and expand the brand's reach by bringing high-quality complementary offerings such as tea and cold beverages. Sub-strategy 7, Starbucks sought to grow with a sustainable economic model by reorganizing operations to support quality, speed, and cost management. The Starbucks transformational process can be deconstructed and examined through the strategic doing lens of Pathfinder projects, associated guideposts, and the resulting action plans. The Starbucks transformational process was multifaceted, as were the intent of various Pathfinder projects. The goal of the projects was to improve the state of the Starbucks retail business in the US and to reignite the emotional attachment with the Starbucks brand and to make long-term foundational changes to the business. Measurable guideposts included the performance analysis of all individual stores, analysis of operations and supply chain, and analysis of IT operations. Measurement criteria were in the form of realized cost reductions, increased efficiency, and improved customer service. Action plans arose exponentially from Schultz's visions and his team's Pathfinder projects. Sweeping changes were made to the senior leadership team, including eliminating entirely the COO position. A new training center and training program for partners was created. Partner career development opportunities were also overhauled, as were the incentive packages. Starbucks expanded into China and India. In each country, Starbucks shared their coffee knowledge and expertise to elevate the industry and help local farmers develop localized, high-quality coffee beans. In India, Starbucks formed an alliance with the Indian corporation Tata Group to source and roast local beans. Starbucks invested in local resources and training local farmers in responsible agronomy practices. Paramount to everything is the consumer's relationship with the brand. Schultz sought to reignite the customer's emotional attachment with the Starbucks brand. For the consumer to have a human connection with his or her barista, and for store managers to be personally invested in their work and proud of what they were doing. To deconstruct and view this under the strategic doing lens, we must call the efforts to reignite consumer emotional attachment a Pathfinder project. Action plans were designed and executed. Creating great espresso requires practice, and for one day in 2008, Starbucks closed 7,000 stores across the country to conduct in-house barista training. The newly designed Mastrina espresso maker promised the return of speed, efficiency, accuracy, and precision. The new Clover coffee brewing system elevated the quality and standard of brewed coffee to French pressed and rendered the brewing process something worth watching. Starbucks developed a major presence across social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. My Starbucks idea allowed consumers to share their thoughts and ideas online. A consumer loyalty program was launched. Starbucks Rewards allowed customers to earn rewards in the form of free product. And finally, a new Starbucks mobile app was rolled out that allowed consumers to convert their existing Starbucks cards to the mobile phone-based accounts and also make mobile payments. Free in-store Wi-Fi allowed customers to settle into the store with their laptop for extended periods. All of these action plans were designed to elevate the customer experience. And with that, I would like to hand this over to Ileana.
So traditional leadership involves taking control and making decisions unilaterally, while collaborative leadership encourages input from team members. In collaborative leadership, the leader still makes the final decision, but is open to receiving feedback and ideas from other employees. The way that this case study was framed, it focuses very closely on the path and success that Schultz had after his return to the company. Because of this framing, you see a lot of evidence around traditional leadership. For example, Schultz is the one who identifies and pushes the idea that something is off, and is also the one who comes back in to lead. He's the driver of the vision and the initiative that the senior leadership team is set to follow, and even acknowledges to the team during the rollout that not everyone will stay on board through the changes and that there are no hard feelings if they leave the company. So that being said, looking deeper at the roles of other leaders, it's clear that Schultz collaborated with other leaders within his network and at Starbucks to have success with his new initiatives. So at the start of his return, Schultz appointed or promoted several new leaders and built a very strong team around him that he could rely on to lead the mission and vision that he had outlined. These leaders would go on to drive initiatives with Schultz leading from the side, like new store design from Rubenfield, streamlined and disciplined store operations through Burroughs and Varma, the development of customer rewards program that Brezzo worked on, and several other projects. So through this work, Schultz showed the characteristics of a collaborative leader, specifically by knowing his colleagues and assessing their strengths and allowing them to execute towards his vision. He showed other characteristics like empathy and actively listening when he took the advice from his network, like Michael Dell, to launch the feedback website through IdeaStorm. These leaders like Schultz, Hansberry, Gibbons, Rubenfield were all able to drive the vision and collaborate successfully, in part because they had a balance along the S-curve, and they were strategically placed within their roles based on their expertise and their strengths. Not only that, but Schultz also had the support of his professional network, like Michael Dell, who sat in a very similar place on the S-curve and helped him initiate these ideas that were long-term implemented throughout the company. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Justin so that he can close this out.
Thanks, Ileana. So alongside or parallel to doing the research on this HBR case study, we've also been learning about strategic doing in Agile strategy. So the 10 rules to Agile strategy or strategic doing are to create and maintain a safe space for deep and focused conversations, framing conversations around appreciative questions, uncovering hidden assets, linking and leveraging assets to create new opportunities, ranking all those opportunities to find the big easy, and converting that big easy to opportunities into outcomes, defining at least one Pathfinder project and guideposts, drafting and executing short-term action plans, setting a 30-30 meeting, nudging, connecting, and promoting relentlessly within. So during the HBR case study, we do see Howard Schultz step back in as a CEO, and when reframing the company, start applying some of these strategic rules. So he did come back in and reframe that appreciative question of what if Starbucks reignited the emotional attachments of the Starbucks brand with the consumers? What would that look like? Schultz put together short-term action plans to move forward and move Starbucks in the right direction to save the company in the 2008 timeframe. Example of this would be when he started changing the senior leadership and even eliminating that COO position. We also see Schultz link and leverage the assets that Steve talked about with the free store Wi-Fi and the My Starbucks ideas, customer rewards. Throughout Starbucks transformation, many guideposts and pathfinders were used. One of those pathfinders being reigniting the consumer emotional attachment with the Starbucks brand. And we saw these guideposts, we saw the guideposts guiding that pathfinder, such as delivering that flawless execution at store level. Throughout that case study, we do see evidence of Schultz nudging and promoting Starbucks to build those new habits for that Starbucks transformation. There's some rules of the strategic doing that didn't stand out to us directly, but we do see some evidence of this happening, like the maintaining a safe space for focused and deep conversation, what that big easy was for Schultz during the Starbucks transformation, and setting that 30-30 meeting. Again, doesn't mean that those things didn't happen during the case study, but those are just some things that didn't directly stand out to us.
Hey, thank you everyone for your time and listening to us.
Thank you. A latte.